So I'm going to assume it is correct. So, hello world, hello chat, hello YouTube, and only YouTube because that's all I do. I don't know how to multi-stream. So today we are going to interview Gary, also known as PermaDM on various Discords or the Discord, however you want to say it. He is working on a little project called All Mice Die. And I guess real quick, do you play as mice or is they just the set? Yeah. You do? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I will say we got some Mouse Ritter fans. So that's good.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
And there's a big connection between Mouse Ritter originally. So
there we go. All right. Well, I guess everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows why we're here. And now everybody knows who you are. So I'm just going to let you start off by giving your elevator pitch. But first, I guess I should say the link to the Kickstarter is in the description. It is not currently live, but it's at that stage where you can sign up, hit the I'm interested button, which gives it some more traction. So when it does go live, I am under the impression that helps the Kickstarter algorithm, or helps you in the Kickstarter algorithm, I should say. So if that does interest you, hit the button, or if you just want to help out, hit the button. It's in the description. And yes, I will let you do your elevator pitch. So tell me about All Mice Die. What is it? Rules light, super crunchy, deadly, a lovable good time. What's going on?
So, hi, I'm Permanent DM. So I'm the creator of All Mice Die. We've got a small team working on it of about 5 people. We've got a bunch of other collaborating people as well, and it's very much a local project. But as far as the elevator pitch goes, All Mice Die's core gameplay loop is that everybody is playing mice in a community, and each player controls a noble family. So somewhat like the idea of like Game of Thrones, rather than playing a specific character and that's your only character, your role might be, I'm going to play House Lannister. And then in individual missions, the entire house doesn't go out to do it, but House Lannister might say, okay, I'm going to send Jaime on this mission and then go out in here and do this. And then the next mission, it's like, oh, well, we don't need a fighter. We need a talker. We're going to send out Tyrion instead. So the idea of the game is that you get to manage a family and a stable of characters and be able to go out on these really quick adventures. As far as like categories are concerned, it's designed to be West Marches first. So it's not a game that you need to adapt a bunch of things that you normally have to play in a West Marches style. That is the default. And it is very heavy exploration pillar based. And it's also designed not only in like the rules themselves, but in the physical presentation of the book and the rules to be modular. And that doesn't mean like, oh, there's a bunch of optional rules and I can just strike them out and ignore them. It means like when you first get the game as someone who's running the game, you get to play a little mini game of building the campaign, of building your world, of building the rules for it, so that you're always exploring as you go along through. You're always creating and discovering stuff rather than, making a build that you then want to play. Like, I'm going to make my fighter up to level like 10 and is going to have to take these feats and do all this stuff. And no, that's not going to work. That just can't function with the way that the game functions.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. We already got somebody, a Mouse Ritter and a Mouse Guard fan, said they're already going to give it a go. So there you go. You're done. You already got one sale. We can close it up now. Yeah. Let's see. Somebody wants to know, if I kickstart, do I get All Mice dice? Well,
so we don't want to promise something that we don't have experience with any more than we already are with making sure that we can do the stuff for the Kickstarter. We're working with a group called Hive to do the pledge manager, and they're big on helping new people who are maybe not new to the industry, but like new to being the ones running Kickstarters and things like that, to be able to deliver on what they promise for. So the only physical things other than the game itself that we currently have that we know that we can produce, right? That we know that we can say, we'll offer this and we'll deliver it and it'll be good, is a stamp that has the kind of skull and crossbones, but it's a mouse skull and crossbones for when you lose a character, and the files for a 3D printed version of the icons of the specific example characters for each of the classes.
Very cool. All right. So I will have more questions about stretch goals and whatnot, but all my dice was funny to me. Now, you gave me the elevator pitch, so tell me a little bit about the mechanics. So, like, are you leaning to more towards rules light, or do you want it to be more like the dreaded 5e, which everybody loves in this community?
So the thing that I'm really making sure that we're building as sort of like a design goal is that everybody has a spectrum that they kind of want to play on for how much rules and how much they want to do. And when you're playing as a DM, or you're running the game as a DM, GM, whatever you want to call it, having multiple options and multiple variations of something can actually be really informative. So I think the best way to explain it is to explain how a spell works. So in our game, if you're going to cast a spell, each spell has 3 components. It has a verb, it has a power source, and it has a manifestation. What am I trying to do? What am I using to do the thing? And then how does this look when it presents into the world? And if you want, as the person who's running the game, you can say, that's all that's in there, right? You have those 3 things, and then you put a certain amount of power into it, a number between 1 and 4, and then you just describe how that works, right? If I'm going to say, create water corporeal, I'm going to make water real, then you summon water, and you don't necessarily need any rules to say what that is, because then you can say, I'm going to make a mist, or I'm going to make a rain cloud, or I'm going to make a swimming pool. That can be sort of the most rules light version of it. Think like the sort of way Shadow Dark works, where each spell has maybe 2 sentences of description. If that's how you want to run it, then you can definitely build a system like that. But when you look in the system and you look under that category, it'll tell you, all right, well, in that slot of those 3 pieces together, there is the example of create water. And if you want to have that as one of your spells, you can have a more traditional, I just have the create water spell that has these components to it. And then it tells you exactly what it does. And then if you want to go even further, there is in the app and in the game, it has some designer notes on it to where you can say, all right, these are some different ways that you can use create water. This is how like the mechanics, if you want to say like, I'm going to make it a skill check that is summons X amount of water, so you can make it very sort of narrowly mechanically focused, you can run it that way too. And as the person running the game, you get all the variations, right? You can see all of it, and then you just tell the players, and the book that you present to the players has whichever one you're going to use, right? So that is very much up to you. And there's a lot of different elements where you might say, well, I want the spells to be super, super specific, but I want the skills to be very generic. I want the skills to be very specific, but I want the spells to be generic. And you can sort of toggle these on and off or move the sliders depending on how you like to run a game.
Okay. So with all, with all that modularity you've been talking about, are we looking at a pretty beefy rule book, or?
So yes and no. It's the biggest problem. So we talked initially with a company called Long Pack Games that wanted to do the book. And I went to them and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. And they basically told me, you shouldn't do that. And not only should you not do that, but you're wrong. Like, you will not make money, and you're going to be making everyone's life harder. Because what I told them is, I don't want the rule book to be bound. I want it to be used during the playtest. We're using like 3-ring binders for everything. And we do have a companion web app for people that like the digital options as well. And so how big is the book? It's pretty chunky if you include all the rules. But after the point where you first make your binder for the game, it is not ever going to be that big, because not only are you going to get, say, let's say you've got experience points. There are 5 ways in the rules for experience that are these 4 rules that we have, and then a template that you can make your own. Hey, this is how I want to do experience. You're not going to have all 5 of those in the one that the players see. That's going to be 1 page, right? You're going to have the big stack of stuff and say, cool, I want these rules, and give it to the player. So when you hand a new player the rule book, once they've decided, yes, I want to play, they don't get a 500-page PHB and feel like they're just like, and they get something they can actually read which might mean the players might read it if it's 20 pages of information instead of 500. And that sort of modularity is also built into that idea of exploration, right? The rule book for the DM might be super chunky, but that's going to include a bunch of classes that don't exist for the players until they discover them. So some of the classes are not starting classes, and you're not going to get them added into the rule book until you can find a way to uncover them. You can get enough of a following. You can figure out how to be those classes in your world. And one of the most satisfying things in the playtest was having the players say, yeah, we've completed the thing. We've unlocked the warlock. And you hit that click into the rule book, and then you get to slide that warlock in and clip it into place.
Okay. That's interesting. That is very interesting. So let's see. Somebody said Twice Dead. I'd rather get STLs for 3D printing than subpar minis. So thanks for not pulling a Trench Crusade. Which, hey, I know what that is because Twice Dead brought that up in another stream. I think wasn't that the weird World War we used as a reference? Now Glee is asking, I think, what I was about to ask. What if we're not big into magic systems? So let's say I am a barbarian squirrel, which I tend to be in the games that allow it. I'm swinging my big old axe. I'm coming down on a, let's say I'm going to lop a rat, try and cut him in half. What do I roll?
So generally speaking, if you're just swinging an axe, swinging a sword, you roll your D20 and see if you hit them with the sword. And then
I can do that.
Then you roll you roll damage. That thing can be modified in a bunch of different ways, and it depends, again, that modularity, it depends on how much you like crunch in your combat. Mm-hmm. So the default setting has probably more crunch than you would like for the combat, but it can be toned down a little bit. Now the sort of minimum level of crunch is sort of getting your ability to say, all right, am I advantaged? Am I disadvantaged for this attack? I'm rolling 1 or 2 D20s and then rolling some dice if I hit. And then the default setting then really plays into how you get that advantage and disadvantage, because combat, while it is important in the system, it's not the only pillar of play. And it's something that's very clear that if you're playing a class that's not a combat class, because combat's one of the 3 archetypical categories of classes. If you're not a combat class, well, how do I participate in combat? You help the people who are combat classes. You use your skills, you use your creativity, you use your stuff, so that the barbarian, when they do swing, they're rolling 2d20s, they're adding numbers to it, they're getting to cleave off of stuff because they're putting up big numbers and being able to cut through the battlefield. Because you're here to provide utility with spells. Some of the spells can do damage, but if the barbarian can just keep on swinging through, they're gonna run out of spells way before the barbarian runs out of axe to swing.
Got axes for days. Okay, so actually on that train of thought, and I'm going to ask this question because I got another interview coming up where I have to ask it in reverse, and this makes it look like I'm fair and consistent. So, Why, since 5e is so popular, and this is going to hurt my soul to say or ask, since 5e is so popular, why not just build yet another hack for 5e or another add-on for it or something? Mice and Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons and mice.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And I am someone who does not play or run 5e. And I put on your Excalibur, I put a picture of what the minis look like. So you can see what the in the All Mice Die section, like in my thing, you can see that character in the very front, just below mice. You can see the iconic fighter Giles. And then in that thing, you can see the printed out and painted version of Giles. If you wanted to see, hey, what do these SQL, what does these mini files look like? That's what Giles looks like. But why not 5e? Well, you can. If you really, really just want to play 5e, there is a thing in here. Again, it's designed to be modular. That'll tell you what do you need to change to turn 5e into something like this. The unfortunate truth is that there are some base assumptions built into 5e that radically alter not just how this game is played, but the entire playstyle of West Marches that make it more difficult. And so basically the book acknowledges you can just, hey, here's a template for applying it to 5e, but the amount of work you're going to have to do in order to get from 5e to the way that the game sort of presents itself is more work than just learning this game from the ground up, because the game doesn't take very long, especially for players, to learn. And that's what I tried to do. I didn't want to make a game system. I wanted to take a system that somebody else did, because making the game system is hard and it takes a lot of effort and I don't want to do it. But I ended up making a game system because I effectively found out that writing my translation and getting people to understand the translation from the other system, which at the time was Mouse Ritter, and using bits and pieces of 5e and a system called Adventure Conquer Kings, putting all those things together and then getting it in my game, that was more effort and more work on the players than it was for me to write my own game and for them to learn that single game.
So on the topic of Mouse Ritter, why mice?
So we liked Mouse Ritter. The original game that I wanted to run was Mouse Ritter plus Adventure Conquer Kings. So I really liked the idea of playing the mice. And then once we started kind of getting into it, one of the ideas was like, well, we want a system, or we want a setting, right, where you can have death be fairly cheap, right? The idea that if you have a group of people, if you have a group of humans, human death, because they take so long to age, they take so many resources to get, a son or a daughter or whatever, like it's going to have a certain level of tragedy to it, because you maybe have 10 kids or whatever, but even still that's spread out over a huge length of time. But there's always more mice. Like the mice breed insanely fast. And so having a highly lethal system and being able to be like, yeah, we're just not going to worry about the mice that just go off and get murdered all the time. It kind of promotes that idea. And it promotes the idea of being small in a big world. We talked recently with the design team about, like, if we did want to make these humans, what we would have to make the world look like in order for it to feel the same way, in order for the design concepts to make sense. And I think the only answer that we really came up with, which was a fun answer, was there's a setting called Pangea for 5e, which is basically, prehistoric humans live at the edges of campfires because there's dinosaurs roaming around eating everyone all the time land. And I was like, that would have the same vibe, the same feel of being mice in this massive world where everything is not necessarily out to like murder your entire civilization. They don't want to genocide you, because you are a great source of calcium and they'd like to have that next time. They just want a mouse here or there and keep moving and keep doing other things.
Little mouse pickings here and there. Okay. So speaking of things, eating things, let's, just because I'm curious. This guy that I put on the thumbnail, I think his name was
Bartleby. Yeah.
Bartleby, but was he a Duke or a Baron?
Yeah.
Baron Bartleby. What creature is he?
He's a weasel.
Oh, he's a weasel? Dang it.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was an otter. I was looking at his tail because, and the reason I was so excited, I mean, he's still very cool, because the little Moss and Stone project I've been on, we ran an adventure a little while back, and the bad guy in it for that adventure was a political figure, and he was Barnaby. So I was like, oh man, we got Bartleby and Barnaby. I thought maybe they were both otters, but no, weasel. I mean, it's kind of close, I guess.
Yeah. No, he is a long-tailed weasel. And one of the things in a lot of creature design, a lot of the stuff that's in this, is that I want it to feel very local to Kentucky. Because when I started the game and I started doing these things, there are a couple of Kentucky creatures that it was really fun that I was describing, like a creature that was, 90% just the creature as it is, with a little bit, 10% of magic on it. So, it can talk, it can do this or that. But the physical description is identical. And I had several people who were playtesting from places that were not in the US be like, oh, wait, that thing is not a magical creature. That's just a cool looking normal creature that you've let him talk. right? Where it's like the five-lined skink, the ones of them that can have bright blue tails.
Yeah.
That looks like a fantasy creature, right? When the first time someone encountered Woodwallow, who's one of the big NPCs, and they got told they're a hellbender, and someone looked at me and was just like, which means, I'm like, well, it means that they're a hellbender. And they're like, and I don't know what sort of fantasy nonsense you're coming up with. I'm like, well, toss it into Google, because it's not fantasy nonsense. It's a really weird name, but that's a real creature. And I think more people should know about them because they're just super cool.
That's Glee. She's in the chat. She still doesn't believe armadillos are real because every time she sees one, it's about this thin on the road. So
Yeah.
she's like, they're not real. They're made up. So, all right. Well, real quick and then I'm going to get some chat questions. Is this your first project?
This is the first project of mine for publication. That's just mine. I've had adventures and other sorts of things published and some other stuff that I've worked on professionally over the years. But and I've made my own game system. But I've never really felt like what I was doing with a system was unique enough or interesting enough or helpful enough to the general TTRPG narrative to be worth trying to send out into the world. But when we started really trying to promote Wes March's play and things like that, I was like, they don't actually have a lot of good frameworks for Wes March's. And so, All Mice Die, yes, it is a mouse game, but it is very intentionally designed that you can ignore all the mice stuff if you want and just take the Wes March's framework and run a game of D&D 5e or run a game of whatever you want, being whoever you want, with that core ideology that lets you run these games that you will actually play. The video I just put out on my YouTube channel is you should try Wes March's because you'll actually get to play games instead of talk about playing games.
Who has those problems? What? Okay, that actually might have answered one of the chat questions. Twice did. If that answered your question, you can let me know. What is the most distinct aspect of your game and what makes it stand out? I feel like that answered that. So let's hop on. Let's see. They mentioned running out of spells, but what does that mean in this game? Spell slots, mana, brain points?
That's a good. So it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of brain points, and it's a combination of physical items. So again, the person who's running the game has a sliding scale of how powerful they want magic to be in their world, and there's a very clear, not just like, oh, uncommon items are 500 gold pieces instead of 100 gold pieces. It's like, no, the certain things like won't exist or be very difficult to do. But the default settings of the game assume that in order to cast a spell, unless you have mastered that spell, and there's a way to kind of get better at spells as you cast, you have to have an item. You have to have a scroll to cast a spell. You're not just going to just spin off. You're not spending a spell slot. There are no such thing as cantrips. So that Create Water example earlier, if you want to do that spell, you have to have a scroll of Create Water. And when you cast that spell, the magic flows through you. You see how effective you are at being able to cast it. And if you survive the process of attempting to cast the spell, it burns up the spell and the spell is cast. I guess technically if it kills you, it also burns up the spell, but usually that's a secondary complaint. It's the main complaint is I have died, not my scroll is burned up.
Dang it, I hate it when I die. So just jumping back when you're talking about people being unfamiliar with the area and the creatures, I was racking my brain. It's like, I know I've run into this. There was a guy I worked with. He was from overseas, and he didn't know what cicadas were. And that season came around, and he just heard all this noise outside. He's like, what is it? He was legitimately scared. It was funny.
What is this thing? Yeah, there's terror in the woods.
Yeah, and I hadn't even really, because I've always had, like I was telling you before the stream, I've been living out here for almost 32 years, and I can sleep through that noise. Like, that's just part of it. And he was like, what is that noise? And I'm like, we were outside the office for a walk, and I was like, what? I was like looking for a car making a weird noise. He's like, all that screaming. And I was just like, what are you talking about? But we figured it out. So your YouTube, I believe I saw a message from you somewhere on Discord saying you just fired that back up.
Yeah.
So that
So,
was you used to do YouTube, took a break.
Yeah, so it's sort of changing why I post on YouTube. I didn't really ever stop, I guess. It was just I posted on my YouTube for when people would ask me questions or I would have an opinion about something or I felt like I had something to say, I would record my explanation of something. And then it just made it to where when someone asked that question again, or if I wanted to bring up the topic or whatever, I could link them a video rather than trying to explain it again. And now with having like a product that we're trying to go for and like some stuff that it's been slowly building in my head of things that I've been wanting to say for the past couple of years, now it's like, okay, I'm going to put those two things together. Like I have a lot of opinions about how to make it easier for people to run and play in Wes March's games and why it's worthwhile to try and play. And a lot of those opinions have either been informed by or are the reason for me making this game. So I can potentially kind of do both pieces, right? I don't know if you know Tales from Elsewhere, Peter, who's just an awesome person in the community. But that's his style of doing things. And I was like, that is what I want. That is something that is very appealing to me because then it's a video that's like, yes, you can get both things out of this, right? I can explain to you the concept. And if you got the concept, you don't need the example, turn off and go do your own thing. If you want to see an example, I'm going to use this game. And if you're like, hey, I like that game, I like this idea, you know, I like this person, then you'd be able to get that game to be able to get a more in-depth example than I'm ever going to be able to give you in like a 6 or 10 minute video.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Do we know Peter? I think so. That's something I forgot to bring up at the beginning. Usually in these interviews, you know, because I've done so many, I like to show off the connection to prove the point that networking works, even though we all know it. But I think it's funny to see how people lock in. So, Peter, you're in the Dungeon Jam Discord server, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Peter's the one that connected us.
You know, honestly, not even like it would make sense if that was true. Literally what it was is I was on YouTube and I was going to do something else. And I was just like looking through different videos on a topic. And I saw the icon. I was like, a squirrel plays. And I was like, okay, well, I'm making a mouse game. And then I clicked on it. And the very beginning it showed you with your little saxophone. And I was like, subscribe, fucking sold. Like,
see Glee, do you hear that? See, she gets mad at me for having that on my my channel's main page, this little saxophone dude. So
yeah, I was sold.
And I just got a comment before we started that somebody said, I subscribed, or I just found your channel and subscribed instantly for the transitions. So I was like, all right. So I guess that's all I need to do. Just not say anything important. Oh, God.
Honestly, the process for me was I saw the thing, I went ahead and hit subscribe, I looked at your videos, and then you did a video a little while back. I mean, I think it might have been like a month or two now, where you did kind of a deep dive in an explanation of a system that was kind of being pitched towards kids, but then it was like bugging you that it was pitched towards kids. And I watched that video and I was like, oh, this person actually cares about the content that is being put into the world. So I mean, I was already subscribed, but now I'm going to go ahead and take the step to join the Discord because this I believe in this, right? Like this is something that speaks to me really well. I've got young kids. I'm very passionate about making sure that the content that's going out there, that it's getting to the target audience that it should go to. Mm-hmm. And that video just really spoke to me. So that was my process. And then Peter was here and I was like, of course he is.
Yeah, that was a fun video.
That did not seem like a fun video.
It wasn't.
That seemed like the opposite of a fun video.
I sat on that one for a long time. And what stunk is, YouTube's yelling at me for my quality. Chat folks, tell me if it's full of crap or if it's actually bad. But anyway, yeah, I sat on that for a year and I was like, I need to do this. And then something kept coming up, like somebody would email, like, I got a Kickstarter, I need a video. I'm like, oh, well, okay. I only do a video every 2 weeks. So it's like, all right, we'll push it out, push it out. And the thing is, every time I went back to look at it again, I would find something new. about it. It was just like, gosh, the list just keeps growing. It's gonna be such a long video. Oh man. But anyway, no, that's what I like to do is when I'm doing my reviews, instead of when somebody says, hey, review this, I'm like, well, no, I'm going to play it. Preferably you will run it. I understand not everybody wants to get on the stream and do it. So I will cut them some slack there, but it's like, I have to run it and I like to stream it because that way, if people watch the review, they're like, that looks cool, or it sounds cool. And like you said, about rules on paper versus rules in play, and then it's two different things. So it's like, now you can go see how it actually plays. If you find it interesting, get your last little piece of information you want. And if the dev themselves can run it, that's a tremendous load off my plate because now I know it's being run right. So
Yeah.
that helps a lot. But time zones are a problem a lot of times because we'll get creators on the other side of the world, and it's like, okay, well, you know, my day, your night, my day, that kind of thing. So it doesn't always work out, but it's been pretty good so far. But I like to have experienced the system before I just go and review it and figure out where it came from if it seems problematic. So let's see. We're picking on Peter. Yes, we all learned. I think you might have seen that question of the day. It was just a day or two ago where we all learned Peter was scared of bugs. Yeah.
Oh, I know Peter doesn't like bugs.
So I didn't know that. I was surprised to learn that. So Twice Dead says we know Peter would die in cicada season. So yeah, that's a bad time. Oh, let's see. All right. So they're good. Well, let's get into... Actually, how long have you been working on this?
So it's sort of a sliding scale, right? Because the first about year, you know, what I call in my notes campaign 1 was just a Google Doc that explained which parts of Mouse Ritter we were using and which parts of Adventure Conquer Kings we were using and what my house rules were between the two. And so, like, there's a lot of stuff in the game that we learned from that, but I don't know if that really qualifies as working on the game as it is today. But as far as working on the game as it is today, about 3 years, and we just finished up the playtest, or you know what I call campaign 5, which is the big. Hey, I think I've got most of the pieces down. I wanna really run it through its numbers, and I also want to run it in such a way that I am going to be stressed out if I don't have all the tools that I need, because I'm going to run it way more than I'm comfortable running. So I ran about an average of between 4 and 5 sessions a week. And these are 4 to 6 hour sessions every week for over a year. So a lot of play has been done.
Yeah.
But most of that's in the past, 18 months or so.
You have trouble getting other people to run it, test it out, or?
Not really, but the thing that's difficult for me is I have some people that are willing to run stuff, and some people that have already run the game. But I feel so like self-conscious about the presentation of something to a DM, because I know my own way of running games is sort of so esoterically me. I say that my stuff is written in High Gary, and that might be complete gibberish to a lot of people. But part of the reason I ran so much and forced myself to prep in a way that I could run a bunch of stuff that I just didn't have enough time to prep my sessions, is so that I would build the game and build systems for low prep, and yeah, like that's my thing I'm on right now. Is I've got this quick start adventure that I'm really excited to have people run, and I've had one person run it so far, and then I've had several other people offer to run it, most of which are people from the playtest campaign last year. But I'm still sitting there being like, oh, I need to really make the handouts look good. I need to make sure that this is here and this is here and this is here. Like, I really want to make it to where it's really easy to read, really easy to just have the page open at the table and not need to like flip pages and things like that. So I feel in a really lucky position that I have more people asking to run the game than I feel comfortable giving away what I have to run it with. And now it's kind of up to me to connect the two dots.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's usually the hard part. Is you know, it's good that a lot of people are willing to jump up and say, "Yeah, man, I'll test out your game with you and play with you. I'll be a player." Like all these little Discord communities are full of people like that, just jumping at the gun. But when it's like, "Hey, do you want to read and study the rules and run a game?" Then people are like,
So, and that was actually one of the big things that I'm super passionate about as a creator, as a designer, is, and again, one of the videos that I actually feel proud of that's going to be coming out on the channel. You know, we've got like 15 videos that are in the can, going to be coming out sort of one a week for quite a while. But one of the videos that's already done talks about destroying the DM screen, basically doing the things where you're sharing the workload between the rest of the group, and then you're revealing and making public knowledge as much as possible, so that when you as a player are like, oh yeah, you know, I want to play and I want to play test and I want to do this stuff, and then you go to look at like, oh well, what is the DM? What do I have to learn? What do I have to read? What do I have to do to be a DM? That you can see so much of the game already before you take a step behind the screen. There's like, oh well, there's like a couple of things that I need to learn, and then I'm good to go. And so far, that's been the feedback from the people that have run the games, that have gone from being players in the game to running the game. Is like, oh, this is really easy to step behind the screen if I know how to play as a player.
That's good. That's good. So we got a couple in the chat. Let's see. There was a good one here. What has been your most challenging part of the dev process and favorite?
The most challenging part of the design process.
You might be able to answer both of these at the same time. The next one was, did you have to kill one of your darlings during the development? So if that's the most difficult part.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the problems. I mean, the hardest part is the part I'm still dealing with right now, which is how do I physically present the modularity and the ease of use stuff to a community, to a Kickstarter, to a game, right? Where, you know, the what we have right now for the design of the Kickstarter is that if you get this in the mail, you're going to get 3 little binders. One is a presentation booklet, which I thought I had one up here, but I do not. But it's a little presentation booklet. And it is like just a couple, like a pretty picture, and then like a couple of sleeves of information and a place for you to be able to print out your own QR code. So that if someone's like, hey, I may be interested in playing, you can hand them something that's got a little bit of pretty artwork and it's got a QR code that lets them join your Discord and have the community be like, hey, welcome to the game, and help that barrier to like, oh, I'm kind of interested to play, to like actually sitting down and play. So it's got that little presentation booklet. It has the player binder, which is the thing that gets slowly built through the campaign. And then it has the DM binder, and then it has all the pages and stuff that goes into that. And being able to like present that as a physical thing for sort of mass production has been super challenging. Because, you know, I was thinking initially getting these printed off as like loose leaf pages that are 3-hole punched and having like packets to bind them together, and that didn't seem feasible. And so there's all these things that will affect the way that stuff is designed based on how I can physically produce it and give it to people. You know, there's even been times where we've basically said, you know, I think getting it printed as a physical copy is going to be sort of minimally useful for people. It's kind of just be for a collector's thing, because the vast majority of the time, it's going to be something that the most efficient way for you to do this is for you as a game master, when you're running your game, to open up the app and say, I want this page, this page, this page, this page, this page, rather than buying a 400-page book. It's not nearly that long, but rather than buying a big thick book, just printing off the few pages that you need, hole punching them, changing whatever templates, whatever rules you want to change, and then being able to hand that to the players. So that is the number one struggle. And because I don't think the original way I was thinking is going to be financially feasible, that has also been my darling that I've had to kill, because that's how the playtest has run, the playtest 5. And it's just been such a fun way to run a game. It's been so satisfying. And there's so many people that, when I would hand them the presentation book and be like, here you go. And they're like, oh man, what do I need to learn? Nothing. It's a single piece of paper that tells you what you need to know. And then the QR code at the bottom gets you to join the server. If you want to play, flip it over, 5d6. Let's do it. Like, just grab your dice. Let's go down the line. Like, let's go. Or if you like digital, there's a web app on the front. You can hit it, bam, generate character. Your whole house is ready to roll.
We got a Blaze in the chat. Look at there. Let's see. Yeah. Glee says that does sound like a really complicated production process. Now, she is graphic designer, but she's also had a lot of experience working with printers, print production and whatnot. So she might be dying a little inside when listening to this, trying to figure out how.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When I talked to Longpack and they were just like, you don't do that. I'm like, okay, well, it is important to me, right? Because the Longpack's thing is, that's not the way we do things. We know a template that works. We've got a business model that we know will make money. Use our business model. You'll make money. We'll make money. Everybody wins. And then me saying to them, listen, the things that I need, right? The design elements that need to come in here cannot work in a published book, as far as I can tell. And then go to them and say, great, if you have another solution for how you can build the player book while also having the DM book that isn't just having them print off a ton of extra stuff after they've bought this book, then I'm game. I will listen. I'm here for it. And I've not found an answer for it. So if someone in the stream, someone in your community has an answer for it, I am all versions of all ears.
Oh, Blaze is up at 3 a.m. and can't sleep. Sounds like Blaze. All right.
Feel that.
Let's see. I got Squirrel concept art on the screen showing right now, so y'all can. That's me in a few years. I'm gonna be old and grumpy. So I'm actually gonna scroll down to this little torn page looking kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that a map? Is that a map?
Mm-hmm.
That's a map. That's cool. I think that almost all fits on there. Let's see. Zoom out just a smidge. Okay. All right. So on the Kickstarter side of things, do you know when you're launching yet?
So that's kind of, if this project sounds interesting to you, there's a link in the bottom for the follower page. We're going to try to get to a certain number of followers. I'm talking with Hive right now because, again, I'm new to this. I want to learn. I want to be effective without, promising something and not being able to deliver it, right? I want to be able to, when I hit launch, be able to deliver almost immediately everything that I say that I can deliver. The main goal is to try to get it done by, try to do the Kickstarter for the beginning of summer. But I'm not saying 100% it has to be this month because there's so many other factors into it, right? I'm going to be, my son's going to be born in less than a month from now. So, having these big things, they need to be movable because I don't want to put a product out there that I'm not confident in. And I don't want to say I'll be able to deliver it in this amount of time and then not be able to do that. And I don't want to put it out there and say, halfway through the Kickstarter, someone's like, oh, well, you could have just done blank and that solves all your production problems and all your products are $20 less for them. And, I'm trying to avoid that because I'm aware I'm a newcomer, right? I'm new to this part of the industry. And I want to make sure that my schedule can adjust for things that I learn.
Well, congratulations on the new player you're about to have at your table. So,
thank you.
Blaze says, I don't think Scrat would be grumpy when he gets old. That's because I'm already grumpy. So, okay, so you got that, but do you know what the goal number is? Like just the money, the goal. You got that figured out, or is that still? I guess you probably might still be figuring that out if you're still working with the print. Yeah, that makes sense.
I I know how much money of my own I have put into the project. So, I know how much I'm wanting to get back out of it, because and this is also something that, people say, oh, well, don't say this about your game. You want to plan to make money, but like this is my passion, this is my hobby, this is something I really enjoy doing. I put a lot of my own money into this, but I've not put any money into it that, I'm not going to be able to pay the electric bill if it doesn't come back to me. So, if I break even, I am happy. And if I do not break even, again, all of the money that I put into this is going to be worthwhile, which means that I can set sort of the funding goal actually much lower than what I need it to be to actually make my money back, because I'm willing to make the product at a loss, right? Mm-hmm. Which people are like, don't ever do that. I'm like, okay, but I would rather make the product at a loss and then get the funding I needed and get it to a couple of people who are going to really enjoy it and get a polished version of the game that I'm going to enjoy being able to play and be able to run, than, try to make my profit margins to a certain degree and then need my Kickstarter funding to be, way up here. And then, we end $50 from being able to be funded.
So have you gone down the Kickstarter rabbit hole of the science of setting your goal? Of like,
yep.
Because there's like, well, if you do it too low, people don't think it's worth it. But if you do it lower than what you need, people will overfund it. And if you do what you need, it's so weird.
Yeah, I've talked with Peter a bit. I've talked with the people over at Hive, and I've talked with. I'm really bad with names. I'd have to pull it up on the spreadsheet. But there's another project that did a couple of guys that did like a project for a Wastelands campaign setting that they funded and made way more money than they supposedly needed. But because of the way that they funded things in the back end, the product ended up being coming out as a net loss for them, even though they beat their funding goals by. I want to say it's like they beat it by like $20,000. Like they had a very, very noticeable margin above. And it was just, promotional links taking too big of a cut. Like it was like the death of 1,000 cuts, right? It was like all these little things that added up. And I feel really fortunate to be in the position that, if someone asks me what the number is, I will tell them I've put $12,000 of my own money into the project. So if I can get $12,000 out of it at the end of the day, that would be awesome. But I don't expect that to happen. And that's really the only number that I can give people, because everything past then is just, I want as many people to be able to have and use the game and be able to play and run as possible. And even so, like if we get enough funding to be able to make the game and make the tool for it, even if the thing that people end up knowing me by is, oh, he's the guy that runs that West Marches app that we use that lets me run all of my West Marches games and has all the Discord integration and does all the stuff we want to do on West Marches. I don't care if they have never played a mouse or don't even know that it is connected to me, because I want people to be able to use the tools, to use the backbone of the system.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've already dropped a couple $1,000s on my next book that I'm trying to write on editors, and I still don't have anything to show for it because editors.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard me grumbling about that before, but there's that. But we'll figure it out. Also, kind of running out of time for things on the writing end. But let's see. There was stretch goals. That's what it was. Do you have any stretch goal plans, ideas, concepts? Do you even want to do stretch goals?
So yes. So we have a couple of stretch goal things and we have a couple of more unique sort of like individual things if you're trying to give like extra money for stuff. So like one of the big ones is the big playtest that just ended. One of the rules for them was when they played, if they were the first character to make it to level 10 on a particular class, then I paid our concept artists to draw their character to make them the iconic character of that class.
Whoa.
So the when we showed you earlier, like the mini for Giles and the picture of Giles on it, that's not something that I've made up. that is the iconic fighter. And the reason it's the iconic fighter is because Corey played up to level 10 and he became the iconic fighter. But we didn't have someone for every class. So there are several classes that are open to, hey, if you want to make your mark on this game, you can say, hey, I want to buy the spot to be the iconic guardian or be the iconic warlock. And then our artist will do that for you. And you know, the one of the big stretch goals for me is, you know, I cannot personally pay Jesse, who has done the Bartleby art, and who did the Arcanist, Arsul,
Squirrel.
the squirrel you saw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough money to pay that guy. He's awesome, but he's not cheap.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
One of the is say, hey, if we can get up to a certain amount, we can do all of the art, all of the mainline art can be funded by Jesse, right? We can have Jesse do Bartleby level art for all of the book, which would be amazing. So that's a big stretch goal. The stretch goal to get the sort of premium binders, right? Because the rather than being books, so you have like the special edition, the limited edition, like kind of like the gold foil, whatever, like those books. Our equivalent to that is if we can get enough funding, because the producing the binders is actually pretty expensive, then we can produce a higher quality, cooler binder that'll fold in and have like a DM screen and stuff built into it. That we just don't have a way to produce on smaller amounts. Like we don't have a way to make that on smaller production levels and make it like actually be something that makes sense for people to buy. So that's big. That's one of the ones. And then the SQL files for all of the icons, because we have the icons for the base classes and the SQL files for those for the minis. But we don't have them for all of the stuff. So those are the big stretch goals at the moment.
Cool. All right. Well, I have one more question, but I'm going to save it for the end because we got a few more in chat. And I think probably talked you out by this point. I do like Blaze's comment of, oh no, running a game at a loss. Oh no. Much sarcasm in that text. Oh man! All right, he says he's lost 5,000 euros on World Shapers and plans to lose more. All right, and Neil's here. What's going on, Neil? Now let's see. There was one. Let's see where it was. It was from Twice Dead. What's your stance on fan-made or third-party material for your game?
Please do it and do the thing. Like I when the web app comes up, and I was really hoping that I had some stills to show you of what the web app looks like. All of the stuff that I have as examples are all videos, like they're short videos showing what the app looks like. But one of the big things that we want is when you get a copy of the book and you get a license for the web app and you get to be able to log into it, is that it includes all of our templating. So, you know, if you say, hey, I want to make my own version of experiencing, or I want to make my adventure, or I want to do this or that, if you want to make it look like the official content, that is going to be available for you to do. Because I very much think that when I go to run a game, it's more than just me sitting at the table and then opening up the book and running what it says in the book. I need to make that game system. I need to make that adventure. I need to make that module. I need to make it mine. And if I can translate that easier, right? If I can take the official module and actually delete the parts I don't need and highlight the parts that I need, and then just print the stuff in such a way that makes it easy for me to run, it's just such a better experience for me and for every DM that I've talked to be like, oh, what would you want to do with this module if you could move everything around? Like, oh, well, I would move this thing to be on these other pages and whatever. It's like, great. Well, you should be able to do that in the app and print off whatever version of your thing you're using. And there's no reason that shouldn't be for third-party content as well.
Cool. Man, so speaking of like the PDFs and digital stuff, I will say Sadmar is the guy that makes Tricube Tales. I don't know if you've heard it. Very rules light little game. All his stuff is on DriveThru. I think all of it is. It's on DriveThruRPG, and it's free. And I say in air quotes because technically, when you go there, it's a very cheap price. It's like $1 or whatever. Yeah. But in his description, he always says, hey, if you click the preview, it's the whole thing and you can download it. So it's like, okay. But he has TriCube Tales, which is his book, and then he does a lot of one-page adventures, which has all the basics. Basically a cheat sheet for TriCube, a setting, and then some extra tables to give you goals and stuff. But his PDF, he has, I guess they're layers is what they would be called in the PDF. So you can turn things off to be more printer friendly. So if you're like, I just want pure text, you disable like all the fancy background stuff, or like, hey, I don't want all the background, but I like the images and all this stuff. So like you can kind of pick and choose. So all that to say, he's got some of the I think the most well done PDFs on a technical sense that I've seen doing this, because usually it's just all right there on one layer.
Which I understand, right? There's a certain level of presentation, right? Like you want to have all the pieces there. You want them to all be put together well. You want everything to refer to itself and like be able to show you this really cool thing. But at the end of the day, you then also need to be able to read it and run it easily. And if this thing, I never want someone to take an adventure from All Mice Die and feel they need to take notes in order to run it. I think that'll end up being a failure on my part, where I've run a lot of old school adventures. I've run a lot of classic stuff. And I feel like in order for me to run it effectively and for me to remember the stuff that I'm doing when I need it, I need to take notes. And I just don't have the time. I don't have the energy to do that when I'm running another adventure. So I prefer if it's all just real plain and simple on the page. It's kind of condensed language. It's into a format where it's like, okay, if you don't know the game at all, you can read it in the non-condensed format. And if you know the game and you've run it a little bit, you can now read it in the condensed format to where, a very complex monster is, this big. Whereas instead of it taking up a whole page or something like that.
Cool. All right. So last one, and then I'll let you escape. And honestly, you might have already answered this and I missed it. Future plans, modules, add-ons, whole new systems down the road. Don't want to ever do this again.
So right now, the plan is to have the Kickstarter done, to be able to put the game out there, and then be able to do a zine, probably monthly, maybe every other month, if I can get the people on Patreon that are, if I get interest in it, right, then I can produce these things. Because one of the things that this game is built on is the idea of exploration, and the exploration doesn't only get limited to what we're doing in play. It is also in the rules and the rule books and what's going on. So the intro adventure, when you get the game the first time and it's like, hey, how do I make my first adventure? Well, your first adventure is getting all the hooks that you need to unlock the Scout class. The Scout is not one of the base 6 classes. It's the 7th class. And then that sort of puts you into the mindset of, oh, there are other classes that we can go play, but we need to, as a society, figure out how they work. We need to learn how the Scout is and how we bring them into the society and how magic works this year. And this idea that everything is sort of reset on a fairly regular basis. Every year, the magic dies every winter and is reborn every spring transformed, means that you have to constantly be learning and you have to kind of do these things. So the zine will be things where it says, hey, the barbarian is one of the classes that exists, but you don't have to have that barbarian. Here is the berserker, which is something that is very similar. And then here is the rules for what you need to change, because the classes are fairly small. There's not a whole lot of meat on the bones when it comes to classes. It's some numbers and like 5 abilities per class. And then a lot of your customization comes from how magic works, how you build your magic items through heroism, how you pick up skills and stuff that give you special abilities that you have to build as you play. You can't be like, all right, the character builder, I'm going to pull these. No, you have to do it as you play through the game. And the zine would say, cool, here's the berserker. Here's how that changes the barbarian class. And then here's a bunch of adventure hooks and a bunch of ideas for how you can show to the players, oh, here is this idea of, this is the core concept of being the berserker. How do we bring that into our society? How do we make new berserkers as part of our society? And then that builds into it something where the players are like, hey, we need to go and make a mission to go schedule a session to go do that. Because again, this system is a West Marches system. The assumption is not that the DM prepares a story and the players go along with it. One of the things in West Marches is that the DM is going to put some intro stuff out there. It's going to open up the world a little bit to you at the front, but a lot of it's going to be randomized, like random encounter tables, and you being able to like learn these little pieces of information and these little quest hooks. And then after the intro, if a game does not happen until the players find something they want to do, and the players will have to say, hey, we want to go and see what's going on over there at the West River Ferry, and I'm going to grab these 4 people, and then go to the DM and say, hey, I've got these 4 people. You say you can play on Sunday night, slot 55. Can we run that adventure? Are you ready to run an adventure to go into the West River Ferry to go find, the lost ever frozen chip of ice? Cool. And the DM can say, yeah, I can do that. Let's go. And that means that they always have a very direct goal of what they're doing. And you can put in all of those seeded elements if you wanted them to do the berserker. And even if your players are like, oh, I saw the magazine for this month, the zine for this month was berserker. I'd like to pick up the berserker. Can we put that into the campaign? That idea of, I would think it'd be fun to play one of the berserkers. Can we find a way to put that in the campaign? And the DM doesn't just have to read the class and be like, oh, it works. Now I have to invent from whole cloth a berserker society in this world. Oh no, I have a couple of pages of example societies, of stories and quest hooks and things to be able to take this new content and put it into the game.
Sweet. All right. Glee's being sassy. I know she's poking at me with this one. She says, Gary, are you the type to always have multiple projects going / upcoming, or is all your focus pretty much on this right now?
I don't do multiple. I do multiple things within the same game. I do not do multiple games.
That's what Blaze does. That's how he does it. He's like, yeah, I can have a bunch of things going on, but it's all World Shapers.
Yeah, and even to the point, I said at the beginning of the stream, we were talking about like, if it wasn't mice and it was humans, what would you do? Well, that's not going to be a Kickstarter thing. I mean, maybe if it's wildly successful beyond my imagination and I finish everything I want to do with mice, then I will start looking at that. But that'll probably be something that is just another zine for the month of like, okay, you want to play in a dark world in humans? Here's the translation for how to get from I'm mice to, we're all mice to we're all humans. All of the enemies are, weasels and hawks and snakes, to all of the enemies are, dinosaurs and giant crocodiles and quetzalcoatls and, whatever.
Yeah, I got too many projects going. So we will. Well, you got some?
No, I was just saying, I run too much of whatever I'm excited about to have time for the thing that I'm trying to run, much less run other stuff.
That's true. You got a big load on that one. So you've never been sassy in my life. Surely. We will wrap it up there. I did add a link to his YouTube in the description, but you might have to refresh the page. I don't think that's live in the sense that every time I make an edit, it just updates for you. Can't imagine would. So there should be a link to his Kickstarter in there. If it interests you, go check it out. And if you want to watch those 15 videos he's got in the pipeline as they come out, you can go subscribe to his YouTube. And then I guess that's it, unless you have anything else you would like to bestow upon the chat before we close it out.
I have one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, but there was never an easy moment for it, or I don't know how to do it.
Well, let her
and it's something this is the most remarked upon system from the playtest, and it's basically how do you get magic items, and this is something you can take into any game. So we're talking about all this stuff. I want to give people something that, even if you know nothing else about my game, you never see my face again, I want to give you an idea that you might be able to take and use in your games. So the way that magic items work in All Mice Die is magic is all based around drama. And so if you want to make a magic sword, you don't get 25,000 gold pieces and take it to your local magic smith and have them beat on it with a hammer and tink, now I have a magic sword. That is not how things work. How you get magic is while magic is alive, which is not at all times, but while magic is living, you go out and you do heroic or dastardly things. You go do dramatic things. And then for the players at the end of every session where there's been drama, where there's been stuff going on, where there's been excitement, which is almost every session for the way that these things go, because the players come in with their defined goals of what they want to go do. And their goals are going to be dramatic or the DM's not going to run a game for them. So there is some drama that's going to happen and they will roll to say, oh, there's drama that happened here and it connected with my house words, kind of like the Game of Thrones, the idea of, winter is coming or ours is the fury, House Lannister. And if you can connect dramatic moment with this is who my people are, then you can make a magic item that you then work with the DM to create that imbues the magic of that moment into that item. And so that means that every magic item in the world is not a +1 flame tongue sword or whatever it's going to be. It has to have that moment of connection with it. So if the players figure that out, then when they find magic items in the world, especially when they start finding cursed magic items, as cursed items are dashed hopes, their heroism gone awry, quests that have failed, aspirations that have been destroyed. When they find those things, they know there's a story there. They know that there's questions to ask. They know that there's something to explore that draws them into the world. And when the players have these cool things that they want to share and they say, oh, I've made this magic sword, but I'm bringing my sorcerer along. And someone else says, well, I've got a fighter, but I don't really have any good equipment. And you get to lend them your house weapon, your house blade. It has this identity with it because the effects of your magic weapon are going to be unique to you, unique to your experiences, and it's going to be defining based on the words of your house. So you get to have this ownership of these powerful magic items that fits a little bit more with the sort of fantasy of heirlooms and magic being drawn into things. So
there you go. Okay, so question for the future: ask about magic items.
It's a good note for me is, hey, I need to work that in at some point because it is a much loved system. And it is something that, as a DM, you can really easily just take that and put it into 5e and say, all right, well, rather than just crafting this item, how was this item made? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then what is the story behind it? And how can I use that to play around with stuff? And, if my players have a weapon, but they want the bigger, better version of that same weapon, maybe make a quest for them to get from the weapon they have to the weapon they want, rather than needing to put it in the dragon's hoard. So they have to just luck upon it. Yeah. They don't have that sort of agency to make their legend.
That was something I really liked about Mouse Ritter, was how you recharge the tablets. Like, there's this specific thing you have to do, and it's not easy, some of them. So,
I mean, that recharging the tablets, that idea is why you upgrade magic items in All Mice Die with quests, right? That idea of recharging it. And if you have that quest, I need to, in order to make my sword better, I have to slay a ghoul of my level or higher. If you go to do that and you fail, well, now that quest becomes a curse that attracts ghouls or something like that, right? So you have a story that develops when you're trying to do stuff in the world, which is one of the best parts of Mouse Ritter, is always feeling like the story is moving forward.
You get a sword that attracts ghouls. That's the curse. Mm-hmm. It's like everywhere I go, there's one following me.
And the way that you cleanse the curse is to stand up to the ghouls and do this sort of thing. So yeah, ghouls are coming your way, but if you engage with the curse, if you engage with those ghouls and you're like, all right, well, I'm cursed, but I'm gonna be the hero and overcome it. You can cleanse the weapon, you can complete the upgrade, you can complete the quest that your older brother failed and was mauled to death by. you can finish the story and be able to actually have some resolution.
Cool. Well, I like that. I'm glad you brought it up. That's very neat. So now we will close it out. Links in the description, blah, blah, everything I just said. Yeah. Unless you got another hot take to drop on us, okay. We're safe to go.
For bringing me on here. I appreciate you giving me the interview as especially like pretty newcomer to your community and server. You know, it's always that thing of, I don't want to poke the person who's running the server and be like, hi, I know you just met me. Please promote all of my nonsense. And it's like, well, you know, I think that this would work well for both of us. And also, you know, the little bits of stuff that I got to talk to was like, I think this person would get along well with me. So, yeah, you know, if we get a chance to play at my table, if I get a chance to run a game for you guys, I'll think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, if I end up doing a review on the game, or I think we may have talked about making a video about it when it gets closer to Kickstarter, if that's the route you want to go, build up some momentum. You will have to run a game. That's the rules.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. You know, if I could run the game and have enough people that I run for just run the game on their own, I wouldn't make a Kickstarter at all because I just want other people to run this stuff and run their own games and feel like they can manage a community without going insane. You know, because when I talk to people and I say, you know, one of the games that I was running, I had 26 other DMs and we had over 200 active players for several years. They're like, I don't want to do that. Sounds like a full-time job. And it's like, well, if you don't have the tools in place, it is a full-time job, but it's just such a unique experience that I want more people to have it.
Well, hopefully they will. Hopefully the Kickstarter will do well. I know you got a few people in here at the very least that are interested in it. And I think, what's the word I'm looking for? There's some good cross-pollination in my community with folks who would be interested in this. So hopefully, and you know, the VOD, I have noticed my streams get watched a good bit after they get posted, go live. So I guess I'm good background noise. Yeah. For those long drives to the office, but that's okay. Yeah. We're going to close it out. So I guess say bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube. And if you want to keep the conversation going, you know, feel free to ping me on the Discord. I'm happy to keep talking.
He is in the Squirrel server. All right. Here we go. Hitting the button. Whee!
Bye.